Ladies and gentlemen, hop on your banthas. I'm gonna teach you how to ride today with my good friend Boba Fett, Scion of Jango, and today we're talking about the comeback tour. For Boba Fett, Scion of Jango, no longer is this guy the worst conquest. He was always decent, okay in territories, but even most guilds aren't really using Boba Fett, Scion of Jango. I wasn't using for months. Now we got a home with him thanks to the Tusken Chieftain and their Omicron, giving Boba Fett, Scion of Jango the Tusken tag only for 3 Grand Arena. We're seeing a lot of good stuff out of this guy. We're going to show you offensive, defense, analytics, and show you lots of defensive gameplay provided by one of my Grand Arena opponents, Rockstar, who decided to test a bunch of stuff up against them. Extremely helpful. Let me show you the data first in regards to the 2 weeks of Grand Arena 3 that we have. Normally when something cool comes out and something that's a bit new, I usually put it on defense, let my opponents figure it out, and it gives me data, what works and what doesn't work. It's the easiest way to get as many battles as possible. Otherwise, I like to do it one time per battle. And as we kind of expected, Boba Fett with Tusken Chieftain are doing a lot of great stuff in 3v3. Sucks it's not 5v5 in all the Grand Arenas, but I digress. Tuskens are still usable in 5v5 now with Tusken Chieftain. You just can't use Boba Fett, Scion of Jango, because with that Tusken Chieftain Omicron, 3v3 Grand Arena only brings Boba Fett into the mix, and now you have a lot of damage and a lot of momentum, and especially paired with the Tusken Warrior. We're seeing things like this, where I was stopping Mon Mothmas, Iden Versios, General Grievous. You can see some other mishmashy things, and oftentimes Boba Fett, Scion of Jango was holding defensive wins, and they couldn't fold clear and get through because it's no longer just a team you can stomp over. There's so much damage and momentum, and as we know, the Tusken Chieftain, again, if you don't know much about the Tusken Chieftain, we did a review video, card in the top right-hand corner. If you're getting lots of Terminator and you're hurting the Tuskens, you're getting damage over time, you're getting stuns, and there's not a lot you can do. I want to show you some things that people use to beat this team. So if you're someone that maybe doesn't want to have a hard time, here's some battles where people were successful first time around or so. Check this out. We have people throwing Galactic Legends at these Tuskens here because they're like, I give up. I don't know what else to do. They throw a Galactic Legends. That's a big win right there. But I think some more reasonable things are going to be things like Admiral Radis, where eventually they can get healing immunity, and then you can't recover health and protection and all that stuff. So Admiral Radis, I believe that was Pimpo going up against my Tusken right there. Treya seems to be a hard counter to Tusken because the damage over time get cleansed by Treya. The stuns don't stick long enough. So I think Treya is going to be another great counter to them. Master Luke is overkill unless you have no idea what to do. This one is kind of interesting. First attempt here, we have Newt Gunray, Jango Fett, and B1. That's probably one of the more budget-friendly things that I've seen. So it's not an invincible team, but it's definitely in the upper echelon of what the teams are available inside of 3v3 Grand Arena. Let me roll some gameplay so you guys can get even more. So big shout to Rockstar. They were losing at Grand Arena and they said, hey, do you want me to test anything? I'm like, please, can you show me a lot of fun battles up against Boba Fett, Scion of Jango? So they did. They did through things like Jedi Revan. This one kind of blew my mind. I was not expecting Jedi Revan to struggle against them because they have cleansing and whatnot, but look at the amount of damage. Look at the stuns that are going on here. Because of the high amount of momentum that Boba Fett, Scion of Jango had, even before Tuskens were a thing, basically it's guaranteeing anytime you're hitting Boba Fett, you're getting stunned because, as you know, with the Tusken Chieftain lead, that's when you get all the fun stuff in here. With that Tusken Chieftain lead on nomadic people, anytime you have at least 10 stacks of momentum, which is like all the time on Boba Fett, you're guaranteed to get stunned, unresistible stun, and then you start getting damage over time. So I think that's really the biggest thing is that, but look at the damage Boba Fett's bringing up. But look, they go all in on him. They came, like, this one blew my mind too. Dash, Han, and Chewie. Now, the good thing is here, you can't get stunned on Han and Dash because they have prepared, but now the Wookiee's getting stunned. And then Boba Fett and the Tusken Warrior are starting to dish out the damage. And then once the Wookiee gets out, you're kind of screwed. So that was another battle that blew my mind with the Ashendar. Bounty Hunters, also kind of interesting. Look at the amount of momentum that Boba Fett has in him. And then if they, you got to avoid Boba Fett. But look, he's getting so many turns back to back, constantly smashing his special abilities. He's whipping them with damage. I think really the thing that's dialing this in is that Boba Fett always has, pretty much all the time, the momentum dialed in to get the nomadic people lead, to keep hitting over and over again. So this one kind of, I mean, the Jedi everything blew my mind the most, but that was pretty nuts. Padme. So remember, how do you get all this momentum and stuff? As enemies get turn meter, the Tuskens, they start getting all this momentum. And then once you hit them, you get stunned, the damage over time. There is no turn meter on Padme, but the problem is, as you saw, they tried gunning down Boba Fett, and the whole entire team got stunned. Unresistible stuns. Holy cow, they couldn't do anything. So it's one of those catch-22 situations. You try to get Boba Fett out, but if you do, you're gonna get stunned, and then they're gonna do all this funny stuff on you. We're gonna move into some other battles that Rockstar did, where it looked like we might have other counters that weren't listed in my SWGH.GG data. Savage will press Omicron. We all know it's pretty nutty. It looked like this might work. It's a long, drawn-out battle, especially when Savage hits into Boba Fett. He's gonna get stunned. But luckily, the stun goes off pretty easily. The damage over times don't seem to be a big problem. So this is just Savage being like that Wampa, where it's able to eat up a lot of hits. It's very hard to take down. So this one's kind of, I think we need to wait and see. I guess Savage soloing them isn't horrible. As you saw, once Boba Fett's out, the battle gets a lot easier at that point, because now you don't have to worry about all those momentums, all the damage, the high basic damage that they have going on. And now it's just mostly a time drainer. And the thing that's interesting about Tuskens that not a lot of other teams have, or especially other not attacking characters like C-3PO, Hermit Yoda, Wat Tambor, the Tusken Chieftain doesn't go away when the other allies are gone. So it's yet again draining the clock even more on the enemy. So it's not like coming out of C-3PO where once you're done with the other two, you're good to go. You have to get through the last guy. He's not leaving his people. He's gonna stay there until he dies. A noble Tusken Chieftain, if you ask me. Inquisitors, in 5v5, Inquisitors get stopped by Tuskens because they get lots of turn meter, and therefore there's a lot of damage over times and momentum, stuns. We've seen that. In 3v3, they threw Grand Inquisitor, which is kind of getting in, I don't know, is that overkill? We all know Inquisitors aren't that fantastic until Reba comes into the picture, but Grand Inquisitors seem to handle the job pretty well. Out of all the stuff Rockstar did to throw up against my Tuskens and Boba Fett, this seemed to be the best, but even as you can see, it's still a little messy with how all this panned out, but they managed to get through it at the very end. They didn't get timed out behind the Tusken Chieftain here. So overall, just want to state this as we kind of dial this video down. I'm a bit saddened that the Tusken Chieftain Omicron is only for 3v3 Grand Arena. I wish it was for all Granders, but we're getting to this point where everything's getting really specific. We're starting to see, like Cal Kestis, only in territories if Ahsoka Tano's present with her Omicron turned on. We're seeing Boba Fett. All right, well, okay, you have to have Tusken Chieftain, and it's only going to get Boba Fett Scion of Jango to attack. So we're getting very specific with our Omicrons, unfortunately. But what I want to say is I'm happy to finally get use out of this character. I haven't been using inside of territories, Grand Arena. Now we have a home for him. He's doing great stuff. He's a solid 3v3 team. And I can safely say, especially after the Scythe nerf, where they basically make it so much more difficult to use it, I think Boba Fett Scion of Jango is no longer the worst Conquest unit. I'm going to say Scythe, not to say they're trash, but there's obviously a degree of rankings, and Boba Fett Scion of Jango is no longer bottom of the list. It just sucks. It's only for a specific type of game mode, not for all types of game modes. So I guess you could say at least the Scythe, you can use it in all game modes, albeit it's a little finicky right now. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Boba Fett Scion of Jango initial gameplay impressions of the Tusken Chieftain Omicron. Wow, we're getting to a lot of conditions with this game lately, aren't we? Anyways, I just want to put on your radar, Tusken's becoming more prevalent and more important in Galaxy of Heroes soon for the Crate Dragon raid. It's kind of good to know. Can you do anything with that Boba Fett? Leave that like, comment down below, subscribe so you're not missing a thing. And always remember that it's great to be a Tusken today. See you later.
Oh, it's great to be in the Empire today. The sun never sets.